Catholic Moments, Episode 167, Confession and Communications.
Blooming, finding joy in the journey and hope in the heaven yet to come. Blooming.
Hello and welcome to Catholic Moments. And now, here's your host and my mom, Lisa Hendy.
Well, hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Catholic Moments, the show from CatholicMom.com, where we talk about all things faith, family, and fun from a Catholic perspective. And we've got some geeky stuff and some holy stuff and some fun stuff to share with you this week, a follow-up on a recent podcast, and just some all-around hanging out time. It's nice to be back with you. I'm sorry we missed out on our show last week. Our guest had to cancel at the last moment, and I didn't have a backup, so I gave you the week off. And I hope you did something wonderful with it. I think I'm coming to you from just about the only warm place around the country. I'm been blessed the last couple days with 60 degrees and sunny out here in Fresno. But boy, my kid who's living in Cambridge, Massachusetts, reports back that half of the country is under a lot of snow. And I know from those of you living in the Midwest that you're buried as well. So I hope wherever you are that you're warm and that you're safe too, and that you're enjoying that snow. It's funny, I have some friends that I watch on Facebook, and I think one of my favorites is Danielle Bean, who of course we all know her as the super mom of 8 kids. And Danielle always makes snow look fun and easy to me. So even though I think I'd have a hard time just remembering where my mittens were all the time, I know some people actually really like it. So hopefully you're enjoying your weather wherever you are. I want to give you a report back on some really good news from a recent podcast. We shared an interview with Barbara Ganji, who is the executive producer of the great movie, The Lost Valentine. And I know a lot of our listeners watched it because we were Twittering and Facebooking with each other during the time of the movie. And I just have to report back to you, I got a really nice email from their publicist, and she says, among other things, she says, I know your efforts to reach the faith-based audience played a huge role in the success of the film on Sunday night, making The Lost Valentine the highest-rated Hallmark Hall of Fame film in 4 years. Please thank all those who watched and voted with their remotes. High ratings tell the sponsors and the networks that families are looking for this kind of decent family programming. She also wants me to let you know that if you missed The Lost Valentine, you can find it online streaming for only $1.99 over at spiritclips.com. I've actually never visited that website. I'm going to have a link in the show notes. But spiritclips.com, they have it for $1.99 this week. So if you missed The Lost Valentine, that would actually be a great way to watch it. No commercials, I bet. Or you can go to your local Hallmark Gold Crown stores or check out hallmark.com where they have the DVD available. So check it out, The Lost Valentine. I know so many of you watched it and you were like me. You really fell in love with the film, and it would be a great one to share with relatives or family, or just to watch with your kids. So check it out, The Lost Valentine. Other news that we have had since we last spoke was the release of the message of His Holiness Pope Benedict XVI for the 45th World Communications Day. And if you follow us on CatholicMom.com, you'll know that we covered the release of the document. It came out on the Feast of St. Francis de Sales last week. And the title of the document is Truth, Proclamation, and Authenticity of Life in the Digital Age. If you don't already listen to the Faith and Family podcast over at faithandfamilylive.com, I'm going to point you to that one for this week, because we actually did a conversation today about this document and what it means to you and I, the people who live online every day, who listen to podcasts, who visit with our friends on Facebook. What does it mean to be true, to proclaim the word, and to be authentic in our digital life these days? So check out that document, and I can't say enough good stuff about not only the document itself, but a lot of the writing that's being done as a follow-up, and we have sort of a clearinghouse post over at CatholicMom.com that I'll link to as well, so you can see what some of your favorite bloggers have to say about the Holy Father's words about being connected with one another digitally in this new communications era that we're living in. So I'm happy to share with you that our guest today is Patrick Leinen, and Patrick is one of the co-founders of the company that actually released probably one of the most successful Catholic iPhone apps that I've ever seen. It's the Confession app, and we'll be sharing that interview a little bit later in the show. But first off, I want to share a wonderful reflection from everybody's favorite online deacon. Here he is, Deacon Tom Fox, with this week's Deacon Moment.
You know, I've been thinking about Lisa Hendy and her travels last year and the beginning of this year, all the people that she's talked to. I'm not all that well connected, not like Lisa, but one person whom I've served dozens of times as a deacon for is a priest named Father John Putka. He's the head of the political science department at the University of Dayton. He's pretty well known and a highly respected priest. He was in Washington, D.C. for John Boehner's inauguration as the new House Majority Leader. Congressman Boehner asked Father Putka to deliver a reflection for the bipartisan prayer service that morning. I only have time to share a portion of that reflection here, but I think it contains wisdom and meditation material for each of us. Here are Father Putka's words for the incoming congressman. When Thomas Jefferson began drafting the Declaration of Independence, he faced a seemingly impossible task. In effect, he was being asked to write a legal brief to justify treason, including armed rebellion against the British government. He appealed to the only law that trumped all human legislation, the laws of nature and nature's God. Our nation's birth certificate affirms that our rights come not from a Congress or a court or a charter, but rather that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. In his letter from a Birmingham jail, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. explained that not all laws are the same. King said, "One may well ask, how can you advocate breaking some laws and obeying others? The answer is found in the fact that there are two types of laws. There are just laws and there are unjust laws." Martin Luther King said he would agree with St. Augustine that an unjust law is no law at all. Now, what is the difference between the two? How does one determine when a law is just or unjust? A just law is a man-made code that squares with the moral law or the law of God. An unjust law is a code that is out of harmony with the moral law. To put it in the terms of St. Thomas Aquinas, an unjust law is a human law that is not rooted in eternal and natural law. In the words of Lincoln, to serve humbly, seeking to do what is right and just before God and in conscience, is not an easy thing. The crucible of the legislative process has tested many a conscience, producing profiles in courage as well as cowardice. I'll end this sharing of Father Putka for our representatives back in D.C. and say that all of us are called to rebel against ungodly laws, most especially those which don't protect life from conception until natural death. Blessings. This is Deacon Tom.
Deacon Tom, thank you so much for sharing that reflection with us from Father Putka. I'm going to email Deacon Tom and see if I can get a hold of a link to that document in full. Such wonderful remarks and so inspirational. And, you know, we've recently had the March for Life, and we've also been watching the unfolding of the situation with Lila Rose, liveaction.org, and the Planned Parenthood agency in New Jersey, and we see they're a very courageous example of somebody using their God-given talents to spread the message of life and really to bring to light some just very egregious actions that were happening in New Jersey, and we know they're happening all over the country. And so I think it's an example of the courage that we're called to have, the courage of our convictions to stand up for the things that we know are right, and to defend those who can't defend themselves. So thank you so much, Deacon Tom. I hope that everyone please go over and visit Deacon Tom at his website, deacontomonline.com, and please also be a weekly subscriber to the fantabulous, is that a word? Fantastic and ever popular Catholic Vitamins podcast at catholicvitamins.com, where you'll find Deacon Tom and his lovely wife, Dee. And speaking of lovely people, let's hear now from everybody's favorite little Catholic teen. Here she is, Avery, with this week's Teen Moment.
Hi, this is Avery from the Live Out Loud podcast, bringing you this week's Teen Moment. Okay, so this week we've had a lot of snow days and stuff like that in Nashville, which is not really, typical. But yesterday we had a snow day, and I was really, really bummed when I figured out that our Bible study was canceled, because I really look forward to our Life Teen Bible study every week. And I was like, man, I wish we hadn't canceled that. And I was texting back and forth with one of my friends, and she was like, well, maybe God has a reason for it. And I sat there thinking to myself, really? I'm pretty sure God doesn't have a reason to cancel Bible study, because we're definitely, going to learn about him and stuff like that. So I was like, that doesn't make sense. That, why would he have a reason for us to not be there? And so later in the day, I kind of figured that out. I've been praying a lot lately about, what God wants me to do in my life, and, what I can do right now. Not what I'm going to do in the future, but, what I can do to glorify and praise him right now where I'm at. And so we ended up, it was the feast day of St. Titus yesterday, so we made a cake for our priest, Father Titus, and brought it to him. And then my friend who had helped me make the cake for our priest was on the way home, was like, oh, why don't we stop at adoration? So, of course, that wasn't exactly, it wasn't where I was in my mindset at the moment, but I was like, okay, let's do this. So we went into adoration, and we only had about 15 minutes before we had to be home for dinner, but we sat there, and it took me a long time to focus. It took me a long time to realize why I was there, who I was in the presence of, and I was just really confused, because I had been reading earlier in the day in the Old Testament, and I'd just been really confused finding the connection between this loving and this beautiful God that we have and we see in the New Testament, and the God that seemed so angry and so violent in the Old Testament. And I was really having a hard time making the connection between the two, and trying to decide what that had to do with where I was going and what I was doing. And so as I sat in adoration, I was praying for clarity, praying for guidance, praying for understanding. And then I realized, why am I sitting here, closing my eyes and staring at a wall or whatever, when I am right here in the presence of God? Why don't I just spend a few minutes in his presence, not worrying about the clarity, not worrying about the guidance, just worrying about whose presence I am in, and spending some time with that presence. And so I sat there, I closed my eyes, and I just tried to just breathe in and breathe out, and realized that I was in the presence of Jesus Christ, my Lord and my Savior, and the one that I so hope to spend my eternal salvation with. And so I sat there, and I closed my eyes, and I just envisioned myself standing before Jesus, and I watched as slowly and surely he just kind of lifted his hand up and was like, okay, take my hand. I'm going to lead you along this path. It may not be easy, but I'm going to be here. And what are you waiting for? And it was kind of a wake-up call. I was like, what am I waiting for? I sit here and I'm like, oh, well, maybe tomorrow I'll start that. Or maybe when I'm in college, I'll do that. Or in 10 or 15 years, I'll do that. But Jesus calls us to be his disciples and to follow him and to do his will right now, wherever we are. We have to start somewhere, so we might as well start here. And we have to start sometime, so we might as well start now. So for this week, just think about what God might be calling you to do, and think about starting it now. God has his own special time, so pray to him and discern with him about what he's calling you to do and when that might be. With something to think about this week, I'm Avery, and this was your Teen Moment.
Okay, Avery, you got to like a girl who says that she's totally bummed because her Life Teen Bible study was canceled. Oh, Avery, I love you. I love you. I need a dose of Avery every week. And if you need a dose of Avery, you can go over to the Live Out Loud podcast. We have links in the show notes where you'll find Avery and some helpers giving you tons of inspiration. And Avery, I just have to say that, I think you're getting it just right, honey. I just love you. So anyway, let's hear next from somebody else who's getting it just right. And she's here with a wonderful Mary Moment reflection that really opened my eyes to look at the Ascension in a new way. Here she is, Sarah Reinhardt, with this week's Mary Moment.
Hello, my name's Elizabeth.
And my name's Sarah Reinhardt.
It's time for Mary Moments.
I remember in high school and then later in college making long lists of goals. It was the secret to success, after all, and only people who had goals could do anything worthwhile. That was how I was going to become great. Over time, I've come to realize that those lists of goals, while serving a purpose of sorts, also lead me to an obsessive mindset if I let them. They lock me in and represent an unchangeable course. This is what I said I'd do. I must do it. They don't leave room for the what-if scenarios, especially the ones I've encountered most. What if I change my mind or find out that the planned course isn't the best? One of the goals that won't let me down is presented in the mystery of the Ascension. At first, the Ascension seems a bittersweet memory to me, at least on the surface. There's Jesus, newly risen, leaving. What's so great about that? Isn't he gone again, inaccessible, unreachable? Though he leaves, it is with the invitation to join him, to follow him, to share him with others. He doesn't leave us alone, though, but sends us the very best of all gifts, the Holy Spirit. His return to heaven reminds us where we're supposed to be heading. Our goal is heaven, period. Nothing else trumps that. Nothing else is as important. Nothing else should take our eyes from that. The Ascension is our visual reminder that we are made for heaven. God made each of us in his image, and then, to make sure we understood, he sent his Son to show us so there wouldn't be any doubt. It's a goal I need to be reminded of fairly often these days. I've been battling the force field of ugly, feeling ugly, acting ugly. Looking at the risen Christ ascending into heaven jolts me from my battles with ugly and gives me a new weapon, the best kind of beauty. This week, I'm going to force my gaze heavenward whenever I find myself forgetting where I'm designed to go. I'm going to grasp for the ascension when I find myself slipping and sliding with the challenges and hurdles in my life. It's my prayer that you too can do the same.
Sarah, I love the phrase grasping for the ascension. I just love this reflection and your reminder that our priority in life, all of our priority is to get ourselves and our families to heaven. What a gift it is, and what a gift you are to us. And I want everybody to make sure that you go over and visit Sarah at her blog. You can read her reflections at snoringscholar.com. Be her friend on Facebook, and she's a hoot on Twitter too if you're not connected with her over there. So again, Sarah Reinhardt is over at snoringscholar.com. And now I'm really happy to share with you this week's interview. It's with Patrick Leinen of littleiapps.com, and I hope you enjoy it. Next up on this week's episode of Catholic Moments, I'm so happy to share a conversation with a really best-selling iPhone app developer. He's our first iPhone app developer to have on the show, Patrick Leinen of littleiapps.com. And you may not know Patrick's name, but I'm sure you've heard about the fantastic development of the brand new confession application for the iPhone. So we're really happy to have Patrick online, and shout outs to brother Chip, who's the co-founder of the company. Patrick is the developer and co-founder of littleiapps.com. And Patrick, why don't you start off by just introducing yourself to our listeners?
Sure. My name's Patrick Leinen. I work for Little I Apps LLC. It's a company that I started with my brother, Chip, who you just mentioned, and our very good friend, Ryan Krieger. And we've started to create sort of mobile applications for Roman Catholics, specifically for like the iPhone and iPad. But we're starting to look at possibly the Droid. So,
By popular demand, because
yeah.
your app was just launched last week. Now tell everybody if they haven't seen it. Most of our listeners are pretty darn geeky. Sorry guys, but you are.
Oh.
But if they haven't seen it, tell them what this first app is all about.
The first app is a confession app that we created for Roman Catholics. It's specifically designed for two groups of people. Those like us, who are probably the people who are listening, who frequent confession, right? Frequent Catholic, people who attend Mass regularly or go to confession. Also, the second group would be those who wish to return. So we've built this sort of confession app that's sort of user-centered.
Fantastic. And to let everybody know, it might sound a little bit funny to use an app to go to confession or to prepare yourself for confession, but you guys actually did something really special with this app. You sought the imprimatur of the Bishop of Fort Wayne South Bend Diocese, Kevin C. Rhodes, gave this his blessing. How did that happen, and how does a bishop get involved in blessing an iPhone app?
Well, there's actually a set system on how to get the imprimatur. And in order to receive the imprimatur, you have to have all of the text present and sort of it has to be overseen first by Monsignor for the nil abstat, and then it goes on to the bishop for the imprimatur. So we had sort of built the core of the program, and then we worked with several priests on creating the examination of conscience. And then we took all of the text, all of the prayers, all of the walkthrough for the confession, and we submitted it in written form to the bishop. And so what you see on the phone is actually what was given the imprimatur. It's no different than any other text that gets the imprimatur. The only thing that's different is the format, essentially.
And he probably maybe didn't really realize when he was blessing this or giving it his imprimatur what a special thing that would be. And you guys are the first out of the gates with that. Now bishops all over the place are going to probably be getting asked for the for their imprimatur. But was he hesitant to offer it, or did you have to kind of talk him into using it in this technological way?
No, not so much because we followed the traditional means of getting it. I think none of us really expected the response that we got, kind of like the viral nature of this whole thing. But it's really been quite outstanding to see the response. But I mean, as far as the actual process of going through and getting the imprimatur, we really didn't do anything different than anybody else. And we really thought it would be important to take those steps. We really were insistent sort of to create a very conservative Catholic application.
Well, let's talk about the app itself and the pieces of the app. Now, when I sign on to it, I do that. I've established a password, and multiple users can use the app, and it's
Right.
actually age and vocation appropriate, right? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Right. So when you first get into the application, the first thing that happens is you need to create a user profile. And that's pretty common for any kind of application. You punch in a name, you create a password. The difference is sort of the questions we ask. We ask you what your age is. You have to put in your birthday. You have to put the sex, if you're male or female, and you need to put your vocation. And then finally, we ask when your last confession was. And that's all important because what ends up happening is it takes that information, and this is sort of the unique thing about the app, is that it will take your age, sex, and vocation and then generate an examination of conscience catered to you. So the questions that you get are going to be specific to you. So, like a Catholic priest in his 40s won't get the same examination of conscience as, say, like a 16-year-old girl, or, a 35-year-old married man isn't going to get the same thing as, a small child.
I love it too because I even for little kids, I can remember taking my sons to their first reconciliation, and I know you and Diana haven't had this experience yet, but
Yeah.
both of them, not surprisingly, said to me, "But Mom, I don't have any sins. What am I going to say?"
You
And
know,
I said, "Let me give you a list." But what this does is it really kind of takes the commandments and makes them age appropriate in a way that even a child could understand.
Right. It changes once you get to a certain age. It's the commandments mostly for the teenagers and the adults, but for kids, it's sort of like, sins against my family and sins against the church, and it sort of simplifies it for them. But the reality is that the text, there's really nothing unique in what we're doing in the sense that churches all across the country have these sort of examination of consciences in their churches. Like my parish, they usually have like a cutout sheet, and you can look over it before you go to confession. The difference is that we can really cater it to the user. That's the really unique point of the app.
Another thing I really like about this, and maybe it's because I'm a geek who I use my iPhone for my alarm clock at night, but I shared in my review that I'm using this now at night as part of my own personal examination of conscience before I go to bed. And it really has opened my eyes to kind of making that really a more disciplined part of my evening prayers. I really love using it in that way. So even for somebody who's not quite comfortable yet taking it actually into the confessional with them, it has tremendous value, I think, in just part of your everyday prayer life.
Yeah, and we've gotten a really strong response about that. I mean, it's really been nice to hear from different people. Some people are hesitant about taking it into the confessional, which is fine. I mean, you don't have to. You'll still sort of get this user-centered, examination of conscience, whether or not you take it into the confessional. But the nice thing is we have them for priests and religious. We're getting a really positive response from a lot of the priests in the country who are saying, thank you so much for giving me my own personal examination of conscience. It's not the same. Teenagers have found it fascinating that they say that they tend to forget things in the confessional because they're nervous, but now they have a way of sort of remembering it for themselves.
Well, and this may be the hook that gets a teen who's, hasn't maybe been for a while, or an older person who hasn't been for a while because they're embarrassed, they don't know the prayers to say or the format. They can actually have it right there in front of them. This might be the thing that gets them in and back to receiving the sacrament.
Right, exactly. And the thing that's really interesting is it's sort of broken up into, so you do the examination of conscience, but then the next step is the actual confession. And if you're somebody who hasn't been to confession in a really long time, it will literally walk you through step by step the actual confession that you're going through. And we did a lot of beta testing on this. We tested it with teenagers, we used it ourselves. We had family members who tried it. I mean, we did everything we could to get it out there. And we've gotten a really positive response. We had one gentleman who hadn't been to confession in about 20 years, right? And he went in there, did his examination of conscience, and walked through his confession pretty painlessly, honestly. He came out and said, that not only was that not bad, he kind of enjoyed it. And I was like, that's exactly what we're looking for.
Amen. That's so awesome. Well, I
Yeah.
think the Holy Spirit is at work on this app because one of the real success stories is not we learned in the Holy Father's message last week that we're not supposed to dwell on popularity, but the app
Right.
has been very popular. So you're seeing it really rise up the charts, and a lot of that is due to people on the blogosphere and online spreading the word. Tell me about how that's felt to see your hard work pay off in that way.
Well, first I have to thank you because I think you were the first ones to review it, and you were very generous in
Oh,
doing so. And it's been startling to say the least. We're all kind of tired. We've been answering emails around the clock and doing phone interviews, and it's been a blast. It's been really, really interesting. I mean, we didn't imagine this would happen. The app released on January 27th at about 10 o'clock, and by this afternoon today, I'm talking like international press on the phone. It's not something we ever imagined in our wildest dreams, but it's been really, really fascinating. The best part is we get to hear from the people who've used the apps because they'll review on the store, but a lot of people have just been emailing us, and it's just been fascinating to find just all the people who in our faith who are just finding nuances that we'd never really considered. One of them I liked was somebody was in the confessional and they had their list in front of them that they had checked off the examination of conscience, and there was one particular sin that they didn't want to say, right?
oh,
But it highlights it as you go along. So that one just sort of sat there and looked them right in the face, and they eventually just kind of swallowed their pride, said it, and had a great confession. And that's just stuff that we never it never crossed our mind.
Because they would have gotten to that one that I had to check off, which was, is there anything that you ever haven't confessed that you needed to confess?
Yeah, and then you're like biting your lip, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't know. You can't hide from it there. It's right in front of your face. So,
Well, what a beautiful thing. I want to point our listeners to your website, which is
yeah.
the letter I, apps.com, where they can obviously download the app and read testimonials and get more information, and also drop you an email or get in touch with you. And I have to ask you, as somebody who just is app crazy, what's coming next? I know it's probably hard for you to think of that right now, but have you thought about what you might be developing next?
But we're all emailing each other frantically back and forth this week. We haven't had our meeting yet, but Droid is definitely, I think, on the table. We haven't announced it yet, but I mean, we've gotten a lot of requests to put it on the Droid, so we're going to do our best to get it on there for everybody. We've got a couple apps that we have lined up that we've sort of had in the back burner, and we'll try to narrow that down. There were also features that we wanted to put in this version of Confession that we didn't. So I would say, in the next 6 months to a year, there's going to be some features that are going to be added to the ones that you already have that are really neat. Like I pitched it to my mom. It passed the mom test. I told my mom some of the features that we left out, and she's like, "Ooh, I'd really use that." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know." So we'll get to it when we get to it. We're trying as fast as we can. So we're three married guys, and we have full-time jobs, and this was just something that was a labor of love for us, and it's just neat to see it go out.
Well, you're helping an awful lot of people with this, and I think it's a great response to what our Holy Father's called us to do, which is to use our talents, our gifts, and our blessings to help spread the word in new and exciting ways. So I think this is just exactly what he was talking about.
Yeah, he asked for new media at the service of the word, and that's really what we're trying to work on. And I mean, there are Catholics up out there, and there's some of them that are really good, but I think something that we need to do as Catholics is we need apps that are as dynamic as our faith. And so in order for that to happen, we need to make them unique and sort of user-centered. We can't just, take a prayer card and put it on an iPhone, because that's not what it was intended for. These are since your listeners are probably very techno geeky like me, you get what a smartphone is, and you get that it's not really a phone. It's sort of like this extension of yourself. It has these little bits of you, like mine has my music and my video and my family pictures and contacts and social networking. It also needs to include, I think, a piece of our faith, and in a unique way. And we're really looking forward to doing that.
Well, thank you so much on behalf of penitents everywhere who will be using this tool, and I'll report back to you after I actually take it to. My pastor's a big iPhone user, so I think I'll be able to get away with using it with him. But I'll report back, Patrick, and let you know how that goes.
Well, yeah, let us know. We want to thank, especially since this is Catholic Mom, and this is probably the best format, and we haven't had a chance to say this, we want to thank the moms that kind of helped us make this app, our wives, and the mothers. They really gave up a lot of weekend time with their husbands and evenings so that we could create this app. And I really think that, it's just, we really want to thank them from the bottom of our hearts. This was a labor of love from a lot of us. So we hope people really use it and enjoy it. And please go to confession. See your priest. This is not, this doesn't stop you from going to confession. It's supposed to be an aid. Please go to your
Yes.
church and go to confession.
Yes, I think that's clear. And again, we want to point our listeners to littleiapps.com, or just go straight over to the iTunes store and do a search for Confessions, a Roman and Catholic app. Am I saying it correctly?
That is correct.
If you're somebody who's actually already downloaded and using the app, we'd ask you to go over to iTunes and to leave your review, because the more positive reviews and the more ratings that an app gets, the higher it is in the iTunes store. And the more our developers see, hey, Catholic apps are selling, the more that we're going to get. So it behooves all of us to help these guys to support the great work that they're doing. And again, thank you to the moms and the wives. I know I'm friends with your wife, Diana, and I know that she
Yes.
probably is very proud of you. So
She is. She's very proud, and she's actually got the flu right now. But she's like, well, when I get better, we'll celebrate. I'm like, okay.
yeah. Well, tell her I'm sure she's going to have a little while of watching you do other more and exciting things, and we'll be on the lookout for great stuff from littleapps.com. And to our guest, Patrick Leinen, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much, Lisa.
Well, thanks again to Patrick and to his colleagues at Little iApps for your time, Patrick, but especially for such a great app, and most especially just for answering the Holy Father's call to be light, to be salt to our world through the skills that you have. I think it's so fantastic that you guys would group together as family and friends to respond to the need that we all have for great tools, great technological tools that'll help support us in our faith. And again, we'll have links in our show notes to littleiapps.com and also to the iTunes store where you can purchase your copy of Confession, a Roman Catholic app. I highly recommend it. I've been using it daily. So, like I said, I really, really, really hope we'll all support this so that we have more app developers who will respond to the need that we have for great, trustworthy Catholic apps. And that's going to be it for this week's show. I'm going to sign off with a little bit of music. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet, but I'll pick something out that I hope you'll enjoy, and I'll put a link in the show notes. I want you to be a part of this show. You can reach us anytime on the voice feedback line by calling 206-339-9272 or come on over to CatholicMoments.com. It will actually bring you to the newly redesigned website of CatholicMom.com. We've been working on our launch, and things are going really well. The site's getting pretty much moved into. We have new forums over at the website, so if you're a forum user, if you're interested in participating in our forums there, just come on over and look for the forum button on the website, and we'd love to have you there, sharing and meeting with other new people in that space. We also have full Facebook integration on the site now, so you can comment on any of the CatholicMom.com articles using your Facebook login. So if you're a Facebook user, you'll like that. As we get ready to say goodbye, I want you to know that you'll be in my prayers during the next week, and I wish you and your family all the best. Drop me a note, be my friend on Facebook, or just come on over to CatholicMom.com and say hi. And until next week, I wish you and yours all the best. God bless everybody. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
You are the salt of the earth. May you never lose your flavor. And you are the light, you shine bright in the night. Don't ever be concealed. A city on a hill, it cannot hide. So let your good work shine. Let them shine. Let them shine. Let your light shine out to all of the earth. Let your light shine on every good work. And let your light shine out to all of the earth, so the world will see. City on a hill, you cannot hide. So let your good work shine. Let them shine.
SQPN, leading the way in Catholic new media.